My name is Avery Dalton. I am 25 years old. At 23, I applied for my first apartment and discovered I was $340,000 in debt. I had never opened a credit card, never signed a loan, never touched a financial document in my life. But someone had. For 9 years, someone had been opening accounts, filing tax returns, and operating a business, all under my name and my social security number. When I called my mother to ask why, she laughed. "Family shares everything," she said, like it was nothing. Like $340,000 was a rounding error on a grocery receipt. What my parents didn't know was this: I am a data analyst. I trace patterns for a living. And the pattern buried inside their finances took me 14 months to completely unravel. Welcome to her side of the story, for every woman who held it together, alone. This is where women share stories of family betrayal, quiet strength, and the boundaries they wish they had drawn sooner. If this is your first time here, subscribe before you go anywhere. And wherever you're listening from right now, drop a comment and tell me your city and the time where you are. Now let me take you back to a Tuesday morning in March, the day everything I thought I knew stopped being true. I grew up in a town called Cloverfield, Ohio, population just under 10,000. My mother, Beverly, worked at a fabric and hobby store off the highway. My father, Gerald, drove a forklift at a manufacturing plant until the plant closed when I was 14. My older brother, Ryan, was 4 years ahead of me, varsity baseball, homecoming court, the kind of kid parents mention at church, without having to explain anything. Ryan was easy. I was quieter. I liked math. I liked spreadsheets, which is not something a 15-year-old usually announces in public. I started working at a frozen yogurt place the summer before sophomore year. $7.25 an hour. I kept every paycheck in a white envelope under my mattress because my parents didn't believe in bank accounts for teenagers. Cash-only envelopes, budget sheets taped to the fridge. Money in our house was a cloud. It was always there, hovering. Nobody ever looked directly at it. I got into Ohio State on a partial academic scholarship, covered about 60%. I paid the rest myself. 3 part-time jobs across 4 years, a coffee shop, data entry at a law office, weekend shifts at a campus bookstore. I counted every nickel. I tracked every dollar in a spreadsheet I kept on my laptop. What I didn't know, what I had no reason to suspect, was that while I was doing all of that, my name was already attached to a business that grossed over $200,000 a year. Ryan got braces at 13. $4,000. Ryan got a used car at 16. $3,000. Ryan's college tuition, 8 semesters at a state school, was paid in full. $32,000, check written every semester. Me, I got, "We just can't right now, honey." My mother had a phrase she used every time the answer was no. She would tilt her head, soften her voice, and say, "Family shares everything. You'll get yours when it's your turn." I believed her. That is what you do when you are 10, 12, 15. You trust your parents. You assume the system is fair, even as the evidence stacks up that it isn't. Here is a memory I have never forgotten. Sophomore year of high school, there was a class trip to Washington, D.C., $200. I asked my mother. She checked the checkbook and shook her head. "Maybe next year, baby." 2 weeks later, she came home with a new dining room set. Dark walnut. 6 chairs. I have no idea what it cost, but it was not $200. I didn't ask where the money came from. I didn't ask why the dining set outranked Washington, D.C. That is the thing about growing up in a house where money is a cloud. You learn not to look at it. You learn to look away. And you learn that family shares everything means that some people share, and some people receive. And the girl who liked math and kept envelopes under her mattress was always going to be the one who shared. I am degree in statistics from Ohio State, job as a data analyst at a mid-size insurance company in Columbus. Salary, $48,000. My first real paycheck. My first real desk. My first real nameplate. I found an apartment on the east side of the city. 1 bedroom, 2nd floor, narrow kitchen, good light. $1,100 a month. I could manage it. Barely, but I could. I filled out the application on a Sunday afternoon. Paid the $35 fee. listed my employer, my income, my references, turned it in with a deposit check and a smile that probably looked ridiculous. 3 days later, the property manager called. "Miss Dalton, we're unable to approve your application." I assumed it was the income. Maybe they needed more pay stubs. Maybe I needed a cosigner. "Your credit report came back," he said. "There are significant issues." Significant issues? I had never opened a credit card, never taken out a car loan, never financed so much as a piece of furniture. I paid cash for everything because that's how I was raised. What kind of issues? A pause. The kind that tells you the person on the other end is deciding how much to say. "Miss Dalton, you may want to pull your credit report. I think you'll find it informative." Informative. He chose that word very deliberately. I hung up and opened my laptop. That was the last moment of my life when I didn't know. I went to annualcreditreport.com, typed in my name, my social security number, my date of birth. Hit submit. The report loaded. All 3 bureaus. I started with Equifax. 47 pages. My name, my social security number, my address, except it wasn't my address. It was 4219 Millbrook Drive, my parents' house. 6 credit card accounts. A vehicle loan for $28,000. 2 utility accounts. A business line of credit. 7 collection items. 2 civil judgments. Total outstanding debt, $341,227. The oldest account had been opened 9 years earlier. I was 14. Some of the accounts listed my birth year as 1996 instead of 2001. Whoever had opened them changed my birthday to make me appear old enough to qualify. I sat on the floor of my friend Casey's apartment, the friend I was staying with because I had nowhere else to go, and I read every page. All 47 of them. My hands were shaking by page 12. By page 30, they had stopped shaking because the rest of me had gone completely numb. I made a spreadsheet, because that's what I do. It was the only thing I knew how to do in that moment. Column A, account name. Column B, date opened. Column C, amount owed. Column D, status. The patterns were obvious immediately. Same address on every account. Same phone number. Different birth years to clear age restrictions. And one business name that appeared on 9 separate entries. Nash Event Rentals LLC. I had never heard of it in my life. The data analyst in me took over. I stopped feeling. I started tracing. I searched the Ohio Secretary of State Business Database. Typed in Nash Event Rentals LLC. One result. Registered agent. Avery E.R. Dalton, my full legal name. My social security number. Filed 9 years ago. Status dissolved for years prior, but the debts were still active. Still accruing. Still attached to my identity. Registered address. 4219 Millbrook Drive. Business type. Party and event equipment rentals. Bounce houses. Tents. Folding chairs. Cotton candy machines. Photo booth equipment. I was in 9th grade when that business was created. I was on the math team. I was volunteering at the library on Saturday mornings because it looked good on college applications. I was not running an event rental company. The filing date stopped me cold. October 3rd. My birthday. The LLC had been filed on my 14th birthday. I sat with that fact for a long time. October 3rd. The day my mother bought a grocery store cake with yellow frosting and 14 candles. The day my father grilled hot dogs in the backyard. The day I blew out those candles and wished for a new laptop because mine had a cracked hinge. That same day, maybe that same hour, someone sat at a computer and typed my name, my social security number, and a forged signature into a state database. I already knew who. I just wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. I picked up my phone. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. "Avery, what a nice surprise, Mom. Did you open a business in my name?" Silence. 2 seconds, 3. Then she laughed. That laugh, light, casual, the exact same laugh she used when someone asked if the dining room set was new. "Oh, Avery, family shares everything. Your father lost his job. We needed a fresh start. It was just paperwork. Just paperwork. Mom, there are 6 credit cards under my social security number. A car loan for $28,000. A business I've never heard of. 37 collection items. We were going to fix it. When we could. You started this when I was 14. When were you planning to fix it? My father got on the line. Gerald Dalton, the man who once told me that a person's word was their bond. Avery, don't blow this out of proportion. We'll figure it out. No specifics. No timeline. No acknowledgement that what they had done had a name. Identity theft. Federal crime. Up to 7 years in prison. Ryan called 2 hours later. Mama's crying. She says you're threatening to ruin everything. They did what they had to do, Avery. They kept the family together. They kept the family together on my credit. Under my name. With my stolen social security number. Family shares everything. I had heard that phrase my entire childhood. I just never understood what it actually meant. Here is what $340,000 of debt does to a 23. You cannot rent an apartment, denied. You cannot finance a car, denied. You cannot open a basic credit card, denied. Your credit score is 380, which is approximately the score of someone who has defaulted on everything they have ever touched. Except I had never touched anything. I was a ghost in my own financial life. I moved in with my college roommate, Casey Brennan. She had a 1-bedroom apartment in Clintonville, with a pull-out couch and more generosity than anyone in my family had ever shown me. I slept on an air mattress next to her bookshelf, and woke up every morning to collection agency calls. 6, 7, sometimes 8 before 9 a.m. All automated. Miss Dalton, you have an outstanding balance of $4,712. This is an attempt to collect a debt. I started answering every single one. I was 14 when that account was opened. I'm disputing it. They didn't care. They wanted a payment plan. They wanted a card number. They wanted anything. Casey came home one evening and found me on the kitchen floor with the credit report spread around me in a paper ring. 47 pages, arranged by date, oldest to newest. Avery, this is not something you can fix alone. You need a lawyer. She was right. But I didn't want to call a lawyer yet, because I already knew what a lawyer was going to tell me. I was going to have to name my parents. Rebecca Holt was a consumer rights attorney at the Franklin County Legal Aid Office. Gray hair cut short, reading glasses on a beaded chain. A desk buried in folders belonging to other people whose lives had been quietly rearranged by fraud. I sat across from her and handed her the 47 pages. She read for 9 minutes. I counted every one. Then she set her glasses on the desk. This is one of the worst cases of child identity theft I have handled in 15 years. I had been hoping she would say it was fixable. Simple. A few phone calls. To clear debt of this magnitude, you need 3 things. An FTC identity theft affidavit, credit bureau disputes filed with all 3 agencies, and a police report. A police report, yes, naming the person or persons who committed the fraud. With $340,000 in fraudulent debt, the bureaus will not remove these accounts on your word alone. You need documentation, and that documentation requires a name. I looked at the stack of paper between us. My name on every page. A signature that wasn't mine. A birthday that was wrong. An address I hadn't lived at since I was 18. There's no way around it. No, I'm sorry. I asked her for a week to think. She gave me 2 and said, don't wait too long. Interest is still accruing. I didn't sleep much that week. I did what I always do instead. I pulled data. I ordered credit reports from all 3 bureaus and cross-referenced every account. Some appeared on 2 reports, but not the 3rd. Some had different balances, different dates. The inconsistencies were their own kind of evidence. The picture only got worse the longer I looked. It wasn't just the LLC. Beverly had opened 6 personal credit cards under my social security number, each with a different birth year. 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999. Always old enough to clear the age threshold. Always young enough that no creditor would question the thin credit history. Then, I found the car loan. $28,000. financed through a credit union for a 2019 Chevrolet Tahoe. I had never seen a Chevy Tahoe in my life, but I had a very strong feeling I knew exactly where it was parked. I searched the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles registration database. The Tahoe was registered to Beverly Adalton at 4219 Millbrook Drive. My mother was driving a car financed under my stolen identity. She drove it to work. She drove it to church. She drove it to the grocery store where she bought birthday cakes with yellow frosting and 14 candles. My mother drove my debt to Sunday service every week and parked it in the spot she liked closest to the door. I added the Tahoe to my spreadsheet. Then I called my brother. Ryan, did you know about the LLC? A long pause. I could hear a TV in the background. A sports channel. Avery, they needed to keep the lights on. Did you know it was under my name? A longer pause. The TV went quiet. I knew parts of it. Mom told me she used your name because her credit was too messed up after Dad lost his job. She said you'd never need credit because you paid cash for everything. I paid cash because you and Mom and Dad took everything else. That's not fair. What's not fair is that I have $340,000 in debt I didn't know existed. Then he said the thing that redrew the entire picture. Look, Avery, they were barely making it. The business was the only thing keeping us afloat. And yeah, they used some of the money for my tuition, but that's family. His tuition? $32,000 to Bowling Green State. Paid with revenue from Nash Event Rentals LLC, a business registered under my name. Funded by credit taken in my name. Generating income reported on tax returns filed with my social security number. My brother went to college on my identity. I went on a scholarship and 3 part-time jobs because my parents told me they couldn't afford to help. Family shares everything, right, Ryan? He hung up. Attorney Holt suggested I request my IRS tax transcripts. If the business was operated under my social security number, there might be tax filings attached to my identity that I never knew about. I submitted the request. 3 weeks later, the envelope arrived. I opened it, standing at Casey's kitchen table because I couldn't bring myself to sit down. Tax returns had been filed under my social security number for 7 years, starting when I was 16. The filings listed me as sole proprietor of Nash Event Rentals LLC. They reported business income, deductions, expenses, profit margins. In 2019, when I was 20 years old, working part-time at the campus library for $11.50 an hour, my social security number showed $78,000 in reported income. In 2020, $61,000. In 2021, 80. 7 years of tax returns I never filed. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in income I never earned. Deductions I never claimed, and refunds $14,000 in IRS refund checks, deposited over 3 years into an account I had never seen. I called Rebecca immediately. They filed tax returns in my name. A long exhale on her end. Avery, this isn't just identity theft anymore. Filing fraudulent tax returns using someone else's social security number is federal tax fraud. If refund checks were issued and deposited, that's mail fraud or wire fraud. This could go federal. I put the tax transcripts in a manila folder and added them to the stack. Credit report, LLC documents, tax returns. The stack was getting taller every week. My mother called 3 days later. The crying was practiced. I had been listening to that particular pitch my entire childhood. She had it calibrated perfectly. Avery, I never meant for it to go this far. Your father lost his job. We were about to lose the house. What was I supposed to do? You could have told me. You were a child. I was protecting you from the stress. You protected me by putting $340,000 on my social security number. It was supposed to be temporary. I was going to pay it all back before you ever needed credit. I needed credit 3 weeks ago. Mom, I got denied an apartment. Silence. And then the shift. A shift I had watched her make my entire life. The moment she stopped being sad and started being strategic. Avery, if you talk to anyone about this, a lawyer, the police, anyone, you will destroy this family. Is that what you want? After everything I sacrificed for you. After all the years I spent keeping a roof over your head. You kept a roof over my head by stealing my name. That is not what happened. What would you call it? I would call it a mother doing whatever it takes to keep her family together. The IRS has a different word for it. She went quiet. Then, low and flat. If you do this, don't bother coming home. I didn't say anything. I hung up, set the phone on the counter, and stared at it for a long time. Family shares everything, even threats. That night I sat on Casey's kitchen floor with a legal pad and a pen. The air mattress was slowly deflating in the other room. I could hear it hissing. I drew 2 columns. Reasons to file. Reasons not to. Reasons to file, credit restored, debts removed, criminal accountability, justice, my future. Reasons not to. My parents go to prison. My brother hates me. The family fractures. I become the daughter who sent her own mother to jail. I stared at the list until Casey found me at 2 in the morning. She set a glass of water next to me and sat down on the floor beside me. Which way are you leaning? I keep hearing her laugh, I said. On the phone, when I asked her about the business, she laughed like I was overreacting, like it was nothing. Casey didn't say anything for a while. Then, how much did you say the total was? $341,000, and she laughed. She picked up the legal pad. Read both columns. Set it back down. You already know what you're going to do. You're just looking for permission. She was right. I didn't need permission. I needed one more thing first. I needed to see the documents myself. The original LLC filing, the paperwork, the signature that carried my name but wasn't mine. I needed to go back to Cloverfield. I drove home on a Saturday. Told my parents I was visiting for the weekend. Normal and casual, the kind of trip a good daughter makes. Beverly made a pot roast. Gerald watched football. Ryan wasn't there. He'd moved to Dayton for a sales job the year before. Saturday morning, my parents left for the grocery store together. They always went together. 45 minutes, sometimes an hour if the lines were long. I went to the garage. Gerald kept a metal filing cabinet next to his workbench. 2 drawers. Top drawer, owner's manuals, warranty cards, old utility bills. Bottom drawer, legal documents. I opened the bottom drawer. It was all there. The LLC registration, my name, my social security number, a signature line that said Avery R. Dalton in handwriting that was not mine. It was Beverly's. I recognized the way she curved the capital A, a notary stamp. Patricia Sims, Notary Public, State of Ohio. Patricia Sims' Aunt Patty, my mother's closest friend since they were in their 20s together. The woman who brought baked ziti to every holiday gathering and always called me sweetheart. And the filing date, October 3rd. My 14th birthday. I stood in my father's garage and stared at that date. October 3rd, the day I blew out candles on a grocery store cake and wished for a new laptop. The same day my mother sat somewhere and filed papers that would cost me $340,000 and 9 years of my financial life. I photographed every page, 12 documents, front and back. Put everything back exactly where I'd found it. Then I went inside, sat at the kitchen table, and waited for my parents to come home. They came back with groceries. I helped carry the bags in. Nobody said a word about any of it. I stayed until Sunday afternoon. I noticed the new patio furniture on the back deck, composite wood matching chairs, a fire pit table, the kind of set that runs $2,000 at the home improvement store. New appliances in the kitchen, a double-door refrigerator with an ice maker, a convection oven, a stand mixer still in the box. Beverly's closet, which I saw when she asked me to grab her cardigan, was lined with new clothes, several still tagged. Gerald had found a new job 2 years earlier, warehouse supervisor at a distribution center. Decent salary. Beverly still worked at the hobby store, plus picked up shifts at a local event planning company a friend of hers now ran. Together, they were comfortable. Not wealthy, but stable. Stable for 2 years. And in those 2 years, they had not paid down a single dollar of the $340,000 in debt attached to my name. They had not called one creditor. They had not filed one dispute. They bought a patio set and a stand mixer instead. Sunday dinner, pot roast again. Beverly passed the bread basket and smiled. Isn't it nice to have the family together? I smiled back, took a piece of bread, chewed it slowly. Inside, I was thinking about the photographs on my phone. 12 documents. My name. My forged signature. Filed on my birthday by the woman who just handed me the bread. It really is, Mom, I said. I drove back to Columbus that evening. I had what I needed. Monday morning, 8:15. I sat at my desk and called Rebecca before my first meeting. I'm ready to file all of it. FTC, police report, credit disputes, everything. You're sure? I'm sure. I was 14. They knew exactly what they were doing. I filed the FTC identity theft affidavit that afternoon. Every field completed. Name, date of birth, social security number, description of the fraud, names of the suspected perpetrators. Beverly A. Dalton, Gerald T. Dalton. I filed a police report with the Columbus Division of Police, and a supplemental report with the Cloverfield Police Department. Both named my parents. Both included photographs of the LLC documents. I filed disputes with Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Every account, every credit card, the car loan, the utility bills, the business line of credit. 23 separate disputes across 3 bureaus. It took 4 hours. I did it during my lunch break and stayed late at the office to finish. When I submitted the last form and typed my mother's name into the suspect field one final time, I went to the break room and cried for exactly 4 minutes. Not because I was sad, not because I felt guilty, because it was done, and there was no undoing it, and I was the only person who had done it. I washed my face. I went back to my desk. I opened a spreadsheet. I did my job. That night I told Casey, I filed. She nodded. Good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't have to feel good. It just has to be right. 16 days later, my phone rang at work. Miss Dalton, this is Special Agent Diane Moretti with the FBI Cleveland Field Office. My hands went cold. Rebecca had warned me the case could go federal. The tax fraud, the wire fraud, the mail fraud. I just hadn't expected it to happen this quickly. We've reviewed your FTC filing and the police report. The tax fraud component places this in federal jurisdiction. Would you be available to come in for an interview? I drove to Cleveland the following Thursday. The FBI field office was in a federal building downtown. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, a conference room that could seat 12 and held only 2 of us. Agent Moretti was in her mid-40s. Dark hair pulled back, no jewelry except a watch. She spoke the way I imagine experienced surgeons speak, precise.com. Nothing wasted. I liked her immediately. The interview lasted for hours. She walked me through every account, every credit card, every tax return, every LLC document. She asked when I found out, who I told, what I did. Then she showed me something I hadn't known. Miss Dalton, the LLC had a registered post office box and we pulled the mail records. IRS refund checks were sent to that box for 3 tax years, totaling $14,200, deposited into a checking account at First National Bank of Cloverfield. The account holder is Beverly Dalton. $14,000 in refunds from tax returns filed with my social security number. Checks the government sent because they believed I had overpaid my taxes on a business I never ran. I was shelving library books for $11.50 an hour. I sat in the FBI parking lot for 20 minutes after the interview. Engine off. Hands on the wheel. Staring at a concrete wall. My parents were now subjects of a federal investigation. The woman who braided my hair before school. The man who taught me how to read a ruler. The people who made me birthday cakes with yellow frosting and drove me to college orientation, and said they loved me at the end of every phone call. They stole my identity. Ran a business in my name. Filed taxes I never owed. Collected refunds I never received. Drove a car I never sat in. Paid for with credit I never applied for. I started the engine. I drove south on the highway toward Columbus. Somewhere around the halfway mark, I said it out loud for the first time. My parents are criminals. It sounded wrong. It sounded like something from a movie. But it was true. If you are listening to this right now and you have never checked your own credit report or your child's credit report, I am asking you to do it today. right now if you can. Go to annualcreditreport.com. It's free. It takes 5 minutes. Because I spent 9 years not knowing. And it cost me $340,000 and 4 years of my life I will never get back. 1 in 50 American children is a victim of identity theft every year. 73% of those cases are committed by someone the child already knows. Please check. The next 7 months were the hardest stretch of my life. The FBI contacted my parents in June. 2 agents went to 4219 Millbrook Drive and asked Beverly and Gerald Dalton to come in for an interview. They were advised to retain counsel. My mother called me within the hour. She wasn't crying this time. The FBI, Avery. You sent the FBI to your own parents' house. Mom, I didn't call the FBI. The case was referred by the IRS. Don't play games with me. You started this. You filed those reports. You gave them our names. You gave them my name first. When I was 14, you ungrateful after everything I did for you. After I kept this family together, you kept this family together by stealing my identity. She hung up. My father sent one text message. You have destroyed this family. Ryan's came an hour later. You are dead to me. I hope you're satisfied. Then the extended family. My mother's best friend Patty, though I hadn't yet revealed that she was the notary, left a voicemail. Your mother was in a desperate place, Avery. How could you do this to her? My uncle called. Blood doesn't do this to blood. A cousin I'd grown up with texted. I heard what happened. That is so messed up. I still don't know if she meant what my parents did or what I did. I didn't ask. I changed my phone number that weekend. Only Casey and Rebecca had the new one. My old number, the one Beverly had called every Sunday for 23 years, went silent. For the first time in my life, no one in my family knew how to reach me. It was the loneliest I had ever been. It was also the safest. The investigation moved at its own pace. Federal cases are not fast, they are thorough. Agent Moretti subpoenaed the bank records for Nash Event Rentals LLC. 7 years of transactions, and called me in August with an update. The deposits matched the business income reported on the tax returns. Party rentals, event fees, equipment leases, but the withdrawals tell a different story. She read me a summary. Mortgage payments for 4,219 Millbrook Drive sent directly from the business account. Car insurance for the Tahoe, grocery purchases, a furniture showroom, a clothing boutique in Toledo, restaurant charges, a vacation rental in Hilton Head. There's no separation between business and personal expenses. Your mother was using the LLC account as her personal checking. Then she pointed out a pattern I had missed. Look at these 3 withdrawals in November 2021. 4,900, 4,800, 4,700. 3 separate transactions on 3 separate days. What about them? The federal reporting threshold for cash transactions is $10,000. Your mother split a single withdrawal into 3 smaller amounts to avoid triggering a currency transaction report. I knew the word for that. Structuring. A federal crime entirely separate from the identity theft, separate from the tax fraud. Its own charge. Every time I think I've found the bottom, I told Moretti, there's more floor underneath. That's usually how these cases go, she said. People who commit one type of fraud rarely stop at one. She was building the case layer by layer, transaction by transaction. My mother had built her life on my name. Moretti was taking it apart with receipts. In September, Moretti turned her attention to the LLC registration documents. Specifically, the notarization. The notary listed on your LLC filing is a Patricia Sims. Do you know her? She's my mother's closest friend. I've known her my entire life. We call her Aunt Patty, Miss Dalton. Patricia Sims notarized documents claiming that you were present and that you consented to the LLC filing. You were 14 at the time. Were you present? No, I was in school. It was a Wednesday. I had a math exam that afternoon. Can you verify that? I called Cloverfield High School and requested my attendance records from 9th grade. They still had them on file. October 3rd, present for all 6 periods. Math exam in 4th period. I scored a 9. I was taking a math exam while my mother's best friend was notarizing my forged signature across town. Moretti added Patricia Sims to the investigation. Not as a witness, as a potential co-conspirator. I thought about Patty at holiday dinners, laughing at my father's bad jokes, bringing her famous baked ziti in a blue ceramic dish. I thought about her at my high school graduation, pulling me into a hug and saying, "I am so proud of you, sweetheart." She knew the entire time. She signed the papers that put $340,000 of debt onto my name. And then she hugged me at graduation and called me sweetheart. The blue dish, the baked ziti, the word sweetheart, maybe none of it was real. Maybe it all was, and she told herself it was just a favor for a friend. Either way, she signed. October, November, December. The months passed in a gray haze of work and waiting. I went to the office. I ran reports. I analyzed data. I came home to Casey's apartment and heated up whatever she'd cooked, and sat on the air mattress with my laptop and answered emails from Rebecca or Agent Moretti. Thanksgiving came. Casey and I ordered Thai food and watched a documentary about deep-sea creatures. She didn't ask if I was okay. I appreciated that more than I could say. Christmas, Casey's parents invited me to their home in Akron. Her mother hugged me at the door and said, "We're so glad you're here, Avery." I almost came apart right there in the entryway. My birthday came in October. I turned 20. Casey brought home a cake from the bakery section at the grocery store. Vanilla, yellow frosting, the same kind Beverly used to buy. I stared at it for a long time. "You don't have to eat it," Casey said. "No, it's fine." But it wasn't fine. I kept thinking about my 14th birthday. The candles, the wish for a laptop, the filing date on the LLC documents, October 3rd, the same day. I wondered if my mother had paused before she typed my social security number into that form. If her hand had hesitated over the keyboard. If she had looked at the cake in the kitchen and thought, even for 1 second, about the girl who was about to blow out those candles. I think she did hesitate, maybe for a full second. And then she typed it anyway. Casey ate 2 slices. I wrapped the rest in foil, put it in the fridge, and threw it away in the morning. Month 11, January. Moretti called on a Wednesday while I was staring at an actuarial table at work. I stepped into the hallway. "Avery, I want to give you an update. The United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Ohio has reviewed the evidence. They are moving forward with formal charges." I leaned against the wall. The charges under consideration are as follows. Identity theft of a minor, up to 7 years. Tax fraud up to 5 years per count. Mail fraud related to the IRS. Refund checks up to 20 years. Wire fraud up to 20 years. Structuring of financial transactions to evade federal reporting requirements, up to 5 years. Your mother faces the bulk of the charges. Your father is looking at conspiracy counts. Your brother may face accessory charges depending on what the grand jury determines. And Patricia Sims is being referred for false notarization and conspiracy. 20 years. My mother could face 20 years in federal prison for opening a party equipment business under her 14-year-old daughter's name. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Of course. In cases like this, when it's family, do the parents ever actually understand what they did?" She was quiet for a moment. I heard her pen clicking. Then, in my experience, no. They usually feel like the victim. That sounded exactly right. A letter arrived at Casey's apartment in February. No return address. Beverly's handwriting on the envelope, the same curved capital A from the LLC signature line. I opened it at the kitchen table. "Dear Avery, I know you hate me right now. Maybe you should. When your father lost his job, I didn't know what else to do. The mortgage was 2 months behind. Ryan needed dental work. The electricity was going to be shut off in 11 days. I panicked. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I would fix every account before you ever needed credit, and you would never have to know. But I didn't fix it. Every time I tried to stop, something came up. The furnace broke. The car needed an engine. Ryan needed tuition. And then it was too late. The debt was too large to fix without admitting what I'd done. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to understand that I was drowning. I read the letter twice, folded it along the original creases, put it in the drawer next to my credit report. She was drowning. I believe that. I believe my mother stood in the kitchen of that house on a Wednesday night in October with an overdue mortgage and a son who needed dental work, and a husband who hadn't worked in months. I believe she panicked. But here is the thing about drowning. When you are drowning, you reach for the nearest thing that will hold you up. My mother reached for her 14-year-old daughter, climbed on top of her, and pushed her under. That is not survival. That is a choice. Month 13, March. Moretti called at 9 in the morning. I was already at my desk. The grand jury has reviewed the evidence. Indictments are being issued. She read the charges. Beverly Adalton, 11 counts. Identity theft of a minor. Aggravated identity theft. Tax fraud, 4 counts. Mail fraud, 2 counts. Wire fraud, 2 counts. Structuring. Gerald T. Dalton, 6 counts. Conspiracy to commit identity theft. Conspiracy to commit tax fraud. Tax fraud, 2 counts. Filing false documents, 2 counts. Ryan C. Dalton, 2 counts. Accessory after the fact, conspiracy, Patricia Sims, 3 counts. Conspiracy to commit fraud. False notarization. Aiding and abetting identity theft, 22 counts. Across 4 people. For people I had sat across from at every Thanksgiving dinner of my life. You don't need to be present for the arrests, Moretti said. But I wanted you to know. They'll be executed next Tuesday morning. I did the math. The week before Thanksgiving. Last Thanksgiving, I ate Thai food on Casey's couch. This Thanksgiving, my mother would be in federal custody. Is there anything you need, Avery? I thought about it. There was nothing I needed from the FBI. Nothing from the courts. Nothing from anyone. No thank you, Miriam. I hung up, went back to my actuarial table, finished the report I was working on, sent it to my manager by noon. That evening, I sat on the air mattress and stared at the ceiling. Casey was in the kitchen. She didn't ask. She already knew. I didn't sleep that week. 5 days of going to work and coming home and staring at the ceiling. My mother was about to be arrested. My father, my brother. The woman who notarized my stolen identity and called me sweetheart. And I was the one who had set it in motion. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Out of a 47-page credit report that said I owed $341,000 for a life I had never lived. Tuesday morning, 6:52, my phone rang. It was Ryan, calling from the FBI field office in Cleveland. He had turned himself in at 7:15 minutes before the warrants were executed at the house. They arrested Mom and Dad. His voice was flat, mechanical. Agents went to the house at 7:15. They were still in their pajamas. Mom told them it was your fault. First thing she said when they showed their badges, my daughter is doing this because she's angry at me. I sat on the edge of Casey's couch. The apartment was dark. Casey was still asleep. She was right about one part, I said. I am angry. But anger didn't make me file. The 47-page credit report made me file. Dad didn't say anything, Ryan continued. He just put his hands behind his back. He didn't even ask why. Because Gerald Dalton already knew why. He had known for 9 years. He had just chosen not to know. Aunt Patty was arrested at her house. Her husband answered the door. He didn't know any of it. I didn't respond. Casey appeared in the hallway. She didn't say anything. She set a cup of coffee on the table beside me and sat down at the other end of the couch. Ryan wasn't finished. You're really going to let them go to prison over money? They're your parents, Avery. They stole my identity, Ryan. They were struggling. They used my name. My social security number. They filed fake tax returns. They forged my signature. They collected refund checks from the IRS. They were keeping the family alive. They were keeping the family alive with my future. A future I never agreed to give. You were a kid. You didn't need credit. I needed it at 23 and it was gone. So you call the FBI. You put your own mother in handcuffs. I closed my eyes. Took one breath. Let it out. I was 14, Ryan. Silence. I was 14 years old. I was on the math team. I was saving money in envelopes under my mattress. I was a child. More silence. And you knew? You went to college on the money they made from my name. $32,000, paid with revenue from a business, registered under my social security number. You knew and you took it. I didn't. You asked me once why I never come home for Thanksgiving. This is why. Because I was sleeping on an air mattress in my friend's apartment with a credit score of 387 and 6 collection agencies calling before breakfast. While you were eating at a table paid for with my stolen name. He didn't respond. I waited 3 seconds. I was 14. He hung up. I put the phone down and picked up the coffee Casey had left. It was cold. I drank it anyway. Rebecca called that afternoon with details from the initial proceedings. Beverly had retained a public defender. Her defense strategy, per the preliminary filings, a desperate mother making impossible choices in a time of financial crisis. In her initial statement to investigators, Beverly said, "Family shares everything. I never thought of it as stealing." The assistant U.S. attorney responded in the filing. The defendant's 14-year-old daughter did not consent to sharing her identity, her credit, or her future. Gerald's statement was 2 sentences. My wife handled all the finances. I signed whatever she told me to sign. My father threw my mother under the bus. My mother claimed she was the bus. Patricia Sims cooperated immediately. Full cooperation agreement. She testified that Beverly had asked her to notarize the documents as a personal favor, telling her Avery knows about it and she's fine with everything. Patricia said she never questioned it because Beverly was my best friend for 30 years and I trusted her completely. Trust. Everyone in this story trusted someone. I trusted my parents. Patricia trusted Beverly. Gerald trusted Beverly. Beverly trusted that nobody would ever check. She was almost right. If that property manager hadn't used the word informative on the phone, if he had just said denied and moved on, I might have walked away confused and applied somewhere else. I might have spent the next 20 years living with $340,000 of invisible debt, wondering why nothing ever worked out the way it was supposed to. One word, informative. That property manager changed my entire life with a single word he probably forgot about by lunch. The plea negotiations took 2 months. Federal cases move carefully. Every charge weighed. Every sentence calculated. In the end, it went like this. Beverly Dalton pleaded guilty to identity theft of a minor and 2 counts of tax fraud. Sentencing: 30 months in a federal correctional facility. 3 years of supervised release. Full restitution, $341,227. Gerald Dalton pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit identity theft and 1 count of filing false documents. Sentencing: 18 months in federal custody. 2 years of supervised release. Joint restitution with Beverly. Ryan Dalton pleaded to accessory after the fact. Sentencing: 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service. A separate restitution order of $32,000, the exact amount of tuition paid from business revenue. The amount he accepted, knowing where it came from. Patricia Sims pleaded to false notarization and aiding and abetting. Sentencing: 2 years probation. Her notary commission revoked permanently. I did not attend the sentencing hearings. Rebecca offered to come with me. Moretti offered to be there. I said no to both. I did not need to see my mother in a courtroom. I did not need to hear her cry in front of a judge. I did not need anyone to ask me if I had something I wanted to say. I had already said everything I needed to say. I said it in 47 pages of credit reports, in 12 photographs of LLC documents, in an FTC affidavit, in a police report, in a 4-hour interview with a federal agent in a Cleveland conference room. The number that appeared on my credit report, $341,227, was now the number on their sentencing order. Some numbers come back around. 3 weeks after sentencing, another letter arrived. This one had a return address. A federal correctional facility in West Virginia. Beverly's handwriting. The same curved day, Willa. I hope you're satisfied. You got what you wanted. I'm in a cell. Your father is in Elk. Your brother can't find work because of his record. Patty lost her business and her marriage is falling apart. Are you happy now? You could have handled this differently. You could have come to us first. We could have worked it out as a family. I would have made payments. Your father would have gotten a second job. We would have fixed it. But you chose to destroy us instead. I carried this family for 23 years. I kept the lights on. I kept the house. I made sure you had food and clothes and a bed and a mother who showed up. And this is what I get. Don't write back. I don't want to hear from you. Not one word of acknowledgement. Not one sentence that recognized what she had done to me. She wrote me from a federal prison to tell me her incarceration was my fault. I read the letter once. Folded it along the original creases. Put it in the drawer with the credit report and the first letter. 3 items in that drawer now. A 47-page credit report. A handwritten letter full of excuses. A handwritten letter full of blame. I closed the drawer. Some patterns never change. The family split the way families do, along fault lines that were always there, just hidden underneath holiday meals and decades of carefully managed appearances. My uncle stopped speaking to me entirely. My mother's sister sent a greeting card. No matter what has happened, she is still your mother. I put it in the recycling bin, but there were others. My cousin Jenna called me quietly one night. Avery, I want you to know, I believe you. I think you were brave. A pause. Also, I pulled my credit report. There are 2 accounts I don't recognize. Opened in 2020. I was 19. My stomach dropped. Jenna, call Rebecca Holt. I'll text you her number. Beverly had done it to more than just me. The pattern was bigger than one daughter. And then there was my grandmother. Gerald's mother, Nana Eloise, 81 years old, living in an assisted care facility outside Dayton. She called me on a Sunday afternoon. Her voice was thin but completely steady. Avery, I'm not going to pretend I understand all the legal parts. I don't understand computers or courts. But I do understand that my son and his wife did something wrong to you, and I am sorry that you had to carry it. She didn't say they were innocent. She didn't say I was wrong. She just said she was sorry I had to carry it. It was the only thing close to an apology anyone in my family ever said to me. Thank you, Nana. You're welcome, sweetheart. Come visit me when you can. I did. The following Saturday. She made instant coffee and we sat together and didn't talk about any of it. 14 months after I filed, the credit bureau disputes were processed. The identity theft affidavits were accepted. One by one, the fraudulent accounts disappeared from my reports. 6 credit cards removed. Vehicle loan for the Chevy Tahoe removed. Business line of credit for Nash Event Rentals LLC removed. 7 collection items removed. 2 civil judgments vacated. My credit report shrank from 47 pages to 3. 3 pages of clean, empty space. My name, my real address, my real information, nothing else. My score climbed. Slowly at first, then faster as accounts cleared. 387, 414, 519, 607, 688, 712. Not perfect. But mine. 6 months after sentencing, I applied for an apartment. Same property management company. Same building on the east side of Columbus. Same 1-bedroom layout, 2nd floor, narrow kitchen, good light. The property manager called back within 2 days. Miss Dalton, you've been approved. I drove over that afternoon to pick up the keys. The same property manager who had told me my credit was informative 18 months earlier handed me a small white envelope. 2 keys inside, one for the deadbolt, one for the mailbox. I held them in my palm and looked at them for a long time. 2 small pieces of brass that meant I had a door that was mine. A mailbox that was mine. A lease with my name on it, signed by me, in my handwriting. The first time my name appeared on a legal document because I chose to put it there. Everything okay? The property manager asked. Yes, I said. Everything is okay. I drove to the apartment and unlocked the deadbolt and stepped inside. Empty rooms, white walls. A kitchen window that caught the afternoon light in long pale strips across the floor. I sat down on the floor. No furniture yet, no air mattress, just me and 2 brass keys, in the quietest room I had ever been in. It was enough. It was more than enough. I moved in the following weekend. Casey helped me carry boxes. There weren't many an air mattress until I could save for a bed, a thrift store desk, a lamp, a coffee maker, a small filing cabinet. I bought the filing cabinet before I bought anything else. Before the bed, before the dishes, I put my credit report in the top drawer. All 3 pages of it, clean. People tell me I should forgive my parents. That holding on to anger poisons the person holding it. That family is family regardless of what they've done. I've heard all of it. But this was never about anger. This was never about revenge. This was about a girl whose name was stolen before she was old enough to use it. A girl who went to college on scholarships and part-time jobs, while her brother went on her stolen credit. A girl who couldn't rent an apartment at 23 because her mother needed a fresh start at her expense. I check my credit report every month now. I log in, review every account, verify every entry. Not because I'm afraid, because it's mine, and I plan to keep it that way. Family does not get to share what they never asked permission to take. That is my story. 9 years of stolen identity, 14 months of investigation, 2 brass keys and a 3-page credit report with nothing on it but my real life. If this story reminded you that protecting yourself is not betrayal, or if it made you want to check your child's credit report, take that as your sign. Do it today. And if someone in your life needed to hear this, share it with them. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.